Death itself is caused by the neighbors who detect a smell. I mean, people don't always commit suicide in front of somebody. They do it by themselves. Right. They're alone. And, it's not detected within, it could be weeks, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Where do you dispose of this material?
There's a medical waste disposal company called Stericycle. A lot of hospitals use them. You see the Sharps containers when you go to the doctor's office. That's a company that'll actually come by, pick it up, and then I think they utilize like an autoclave or some kind of technology similar to that to treat it there on site.
Well, let me ask you a little bit more about your backgrounds, gentlemen. Ryan, you're from Gainesville here. I know you went to West Hall High School. Take us from there. You joined the Marines at some point?
Yeah, I left for boot camp probably 4 days after I graduated high school.
Well, you didn't give yourself even a couple of week vacation there, huh?
No, I didn't. I was ready to get out of Hall County at the time.
Paris Island?
Yes, Paris Island, and went from boot camp to did some other trainings in between, then did some motor transport training. Then I went down to University of West Georgia because I was a reservist. I was through with my training, and as soon as I got settled in down at University of West Georgia, I got a phone call. They said, you're going to Iraq, and that's kind of...
How old were you at the time, 18, 19 years old?
Down in West Georgia, I just turned 20 years old.
What was it like for you when you heard that news?
Oh, gosh. At the time, I was standing out in front of my fraternity house with a red Solo cup, and from that point on, things changed, and my life has done a complete 180 since then, and went to Iraq, did that whole thing, turned 21 in Iraq, and whenever I came home around September 27th, 2005, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, mm-hmm. 2005 is whenever we kicked off this business.
You're single?
Yes.
Would you recommend the Marines? Was it a good experience for you? Would you recommend it to somebody else?
Yes, I would recommend.
Grow up?
Yeah, it took me from a high school student to a man, and I don't regret it at all.
You're always a Marine, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Ben? You're not from this area, from Missouri?
Right. We're talking about my boot camp experience or...
Well, just where, you grew up in Missouri. What happened after high school?
Gosh, well, Dad got a job down here doing software sales, manufacturing companies, all that kind of stuff. And, obviously, I was a sophomore in high school, so we, came down here, got through high school. Didn't do that well in school. I was never really a school kid. So it took about a year to try to figure out what I wanted to do, and knew I had to do something, so I did the Marine Corps. Did that, and we actually started off. Ryan said earlier he was motor transport. I was actually a cook initially, and they came in after for me it was after about a year, transitioned us to mortuary affairs, and shortly thereafter we were being deployed because there was a great need for that within the Marine Corps overseas. So this whole situation just kind of fell in our laps, and initially you can imagine my response to being told, oh hey, you're going to go from being a cook to dealing with remains, human remains. Sure. I was not happy about that, but it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me, and we learned a lot from it.
It takes a certain personality type, though, doesn't it? I mean, not everybody can do it.
That's true. Like I said, we were part of a whole unit of Marines who were tasked out with doing this job. And when we got over there were Marines who, and we're talking about Marines, there was Marines who were not able to do this job, emotionally, and those Marines got reassigned, and it's okay. It's not for everybody, and that's part of what plays into, families who experience this. They're not built for it either, especially when it's a relative,
a lot of people are against the Iraq War for one reason or another. What kind of reaction do you get from people when you tell them you're an Iraq War veteran? Is it basically favorable?
Oh, yeah. Whether they're right or left, they're always very supportive.
So you came back, and then now you had a vocation because you had this experience coming from the war. How did you get the business started?
Well, used our money from the deployment and got things kicked off. We actually launched our first website from Iraq, from a computer tent over in Iraq, and we used the money that we saved up from over there and kicked this thing off.
Mm.
Yep.
And I asked you before, but I want to ask you again. We weren't on the air. It's covered by insurance today, though. This kind of thing wasn't necessarily covered by homeowners insurance years ago. But today, it's, as a matter of course, it's covered by homeowners insurance.
Right. It's been covered. Well, here's the thing. This industry is new, so to speak. It's about 10 years old, whereas previous to that, these cleanups were always being done, but the care about if they were being done right determined, that's the difference now. It's that people care about having things properly disinfected. So basically, insurance, would cover it, and as insurance companies learned that this was actually a real profession, they started covering it. For a while, you got into named perils policies, which, said that, if your home did not experience a tornado or fire, or actual named perils, then you weren't covered. But those policies are now archaic today, and most policies are all-inclusive. So, yes, everything we do is typically 100% covered.
We've only got about a minute or two left, gentlemen. Tell us about the Biotrauma Lake Lanier Community Shore Sweep, your chance to kind of give something back to the community, Ryan.
Yeah, this was put together in response to some articles in the Gainesville Times talking about the industrial waste flowing down from Flat Creek. Flat Creek is a section of Lake Lanier, and we kind of looked at that, and me being a native of Gainesville, I love my town, and we decided to put together a little something to give back to the community. We sent out flyers and got a whole bunch of volunteers in on this, and had Gatorade and door prizes out for everybody, and we cleaned up a mile of shoreline and a whole bunch of trash bags full of stuff. And
20.
Yeah.
20 bags of refuse. That's a lot of refuse. You did a lot of good work. Is there any water there at the lake these days? It's kind of dry. You got plenty of shoreline there now.
Right.
How do we get in touch with Biotrauma in the unfortunate circumstance in which we would need your services, gentlemen?
866-435-7704. That's 836-HELP-704. Or biotrauma.com as well. And we're a 24-hour service.
And one of your pieces of literature says that you answered on the first ring, which I think is very nice.
Yep.
You can also Google Biotrauma, the word.
Biotrauma. But folks, I would recommend just go to biotrauma.com if you want to learn more about biotrauma and what these fine gentlemen, Ben Lichtenwallner and Ryan Sawyer, do. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks much.
You've been listening to Atlanta's Business with your host, Business Radio 1160 Vice President and General Manager, Jeff Davis. Tune in every weekend and mind your business, Atlanta's Business, only on Business Radio 1160, the CFO.